Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel Anveshana Academy. This is Dr. Manjunath Chennapkot. Dear students, in the previous class we discussed about what is convection heat transfer and what are the different types of convection heat transfer, what is pre-convection, what is post-convection, and how to determine the convection heat transfer, what is the equation is there to calculate the convection heat transfer. In detail we have discussed in the previous class, dear students. Come, today we'll move towards next topic, that is radiation heat transfer. So dear students, what is radiation heat transfer? This is the third mode of heat transfer. Okay, so what is radiation heat transfer? That you can see here, dear students. Radiation is the energy emitted by matter in the form of electromagnetic waves or photon as a result of the changes in the electronic configurations of the atoms or molecules. In simple terms, what is radiation? Radiation is nothing but what? Energy emitted by matter in the form of electromagnetic waves. That type of heat transfer we are going to call it as a radiation heat transfer. In simple terms, you can see here now. Radiation. What is this radiation? Radiation is the transfer of heat energy through electromagnetic waves. And there is no any media required to propagate the heat energy. So I repeat, radiation is the form of, it is a mode of heat transfer in which the energy is going to transfer in the form of electromagnetic wave and there is no any media. That type of heat transfer we are going to call it as a radiation heat transfer, dear students. What is that radiation heat transfer? Dear students, we can see here now. There is a sun actually. There is a sun. It is going to emit some energy. That is nothing but heat energy in the form of electromagnetic wave. Whatever the sun radiations which are falling, right, from sun to on earth surface or any plate you can take. The radiations which are falling, right, that means what? This is sun having some matter. That matter is going to emit some kind of energy. That energy is nothing but what? Heat energy. That means heat is going to transfer from sun to earth surface. That heat is transferring in the form of electromagnetic waves or photons. But there is no any media is required to transfer heat energy from sun to earth surface. That heat transfer we are going to call it as a radiation heat transfer. What is radiation heat transfer? Radiation heat transfer is nothing but the heat energy emitted by sun or any things, not only sun, radiation energy, heat energy emitted by any matter in the form of electromagnetic waves, and it does not require any media to transfer heat energy from one point to another point. That type of heat transfer we are going to call it as a radiation heat transfer, dear students. Then this first the radiation heat transfer concept is first well explained by a scientist. That scientist is Stephen Boltzmann. Then that law we are popularly calling it as a Stephen Boltzmann law. What actually he explained? He explained the radiation heat transfer. That means what? Heat energy emitted by any matter in the form of electromagnetic waves or photons, and there is no any requirement of media to transfer heat energy. That type of heat transfer we are going to call it as a radiation heat transfer. That concept well explained by a scientist, that is Stephen Boltzmann, and he has given an equation to determine amount of heat energy transfer. Dear students, I have taken one example here now. Sun, it is emitting heat energy in the form of electromagnetic wave or a photon, and there is no any media. That means heat energy is going to transfer. That heat energy transferring per unit time, that is nothing but what? Heat transfer. Then what actually he made, Stephen, then how much amount of heat energy is going to transfer from sun to earth. Example, sun to earth. To determine the rate of heat transfer, he given an equation. That equation is Stephen Boltzmann equation or Stephen Boltzmann law. What is that? That is equation is P equal to PRQ. Some authors they will take P, that is heat power. Some authors they will take Q, heat transfer. So that is equal PRQ equal to sigma A into T to the power of 4. Then what is PRQ? That is a power radiated. That means what? Heat energy transmitted. Then what is sigma? It is a Stephen Boltzmann constant. Okay, to determine the rate of heat transfer we require a constant. That constant is sigma. Okay, one thing. Then area. So dear students, assume that this is there is a plate actually. That plate having an area. When on that area the radiations they are falling, then that area will play a very important role to calculate the amount of heat transferred. So that area is the area of the surface of the object. The object, I will take it here, plate actually. That is area of the plate, we can say. Then temperature, T is the absolute temperature of the object. So you can take a plate, dear students. The T is represented as the absolute temperature of the object. That with the help of this data, what we can do, we can calculate the amount of heat, radiation heat transfer is taken place. Okay, one thing. What is the example? This is one sun. One more example you can take, dear students. Now you know already there is a oven. Now what, there is a heater at one end, dear students. Then I will switch on that heater with the help of an electrical power. Then it will heat. Okay, electrical coil will be gets heated. After 5 minutes or 10 minutes, what happens? The heat is going to transfer. It is going to transfer from one point to another point, we can say. That means what? Dear students, it is completely closed and there is a vacuum inside the oven. The chicken is at this point, but heater is this point. You can see heat is going to transfer from heater to chicken, but there is no media, but heat is going to transfer from heater coil to chicken. That means what? Without any media, heat is transferring from coil to chicken in the form of electromagnetic wave. That means what? Heat energy is going to transfer from heater to chicken in vacuum in the form of electromagnetic wave. That is nothing but what? Radiation heat transfer, dear students. This is one example. A chicken being cooked in a micro oven. That micro oven is one of the application of what? Radiation heat transfer. Whatever the heat is transferred, right, that we can call as a radiation heat transfer. And that radiations, whatever I am telling, right, that energy is emitting in the form of what? Radiations or electromagnetic waves. That radiations play a very important role in the heat transfer. How it is, that we can see here now. That radiation, thermal radiations, we can take anything. They have some properties. What are those? Those you can see here, dear students. Then the properties of thermal radiations. So whatever the radiations they are coming, right, they should be in straight line at the speed of the light. That means what? Whatever the radiations which are coming, right, they must be straight line to have more heat transfer. One thing, they can travel in vacuum. That means what? Whatever the radiations they are coming, right, they can travel in vacuum. Vacuum means what? There is no air, there is no any kind of media, but the radiations they are traveling. One thing, they are traveling in vacuum. Okay, they can be reflect and refract. The radiations whichever going to fall onto the earth surface, or you can take a plate, they can reflect or refracted. One thing, and they do not heat intervening media. They will not intervening the heat in the media. That is nothing but what? These are nothing but what? Properties of thermal radiation. These properties play a very important role in the heat transfer. That too, radiation heat transfer, dear students. Then how it is, that we can see here now. One example, so we can see. So when we are going to in fire camp, right, we are going to put a hand somewhere else. Assume that there is no any air media, but we are going to feel heat. That means what? The heat is going to transfer from fire to your hand in the form of electromagnetic wave, but there is no any media. That type of heat transfer we are going to call it as a radiation. That means radiation is the, dear students, we can see now, radiation is the energy emitted by matter in the form of electromagnetic waves or photon as a result of the change in the electronic configurations of the atom or molecules. So what are the examples? Then that heat transfer can be calculated with the help of Stefan-Boltzmann equation, that is sigma epsilon, that is absorptivity, that we can discuss in detail next class. Okay, fine. So what are the examples? Dear students, you can see here now. When you want to bake pork, right, then what will happens now? The combustion or firing will be here, the fork is here, then what happens? The heat is going to transfer from this point to this point, then there is no any media at all, heat is going to transfer from this point to this point. That type of heat transfer we are going to call it as a radiation heat transfer. But in conduction, due to physical contact of molecules, heat is going to transfer. But in convection, heat is going to transfer from one part to another part due to molecular motion or due to fluid media. That is convection heat transfer. When it comes to radiation heat transfer, there is no any physical contact, there is no any fluid media is required to transfer heat from one point to another point. That type of heat transfer we can call it as a radiation heat transfer, dear students. One example you can see. Then cremation, when they are going to burn a dead body, right? Then what happens? You are going to feel some heat with your surrounding. That means what? That heat is transferring from the fire to your hand in the form of electromagnetic wave, and it is not at all taking any kind of physical contact or any fluid media. That type of heat transfer we are going to call it as a radiation heat transfer, dear students. Yes, what is radiation heat transfer? The radiation heat transfer is a mode of heat transfer in which heat energy is going to transfer in the form of electromagnetic waves, and that is going to transfer in vacuum transmission. And if the temperature is more, then more rate of heat transfer, rate of heat energy will be more. Okay, fine. So then what are the examples for radiation heat transfer that we can see here, dear students? Sources of electromagnetic radiations or radiations. Examples for radiation heat transfer. You can take a sun. As I told, dear students, heat energy is going to transfer from sun to earth. It is nothing but it's an example of radiation heat transfer. Campfire. As I told, dear students, you are going to feel some heat, right? In the form of what? That heat is going to travel in the form of electromagnetic wave. That is the radiation heat transfer application. Toaster, as I told, chicken oven, right? Micro oven, that is like that. Toaster also one of the best example for radiation heat transfer. Micro oven, that we already discussed. Dear students, heat lamp. In our home, we are having heat lamp, right? We are going to that bulb also you can take. That you are going to feel some amount of, when you are going to take your hand near to the bulb, right? You are going to feel some heat. That means what? There is no media at all, but you are feeling some heat. That heat is nothing but what? It is traveling in the form of electromagnetic wave without any media. That is nothing but what? Radiation heat transfer. That's also one of the best examples we can consider. Yes, in scan, light bulb in our home, dear students. Just a minute. In home, whatever you are having, right? Light bulb is also one of the best example for what? Radiation heat transfer. Person near fire, that means what? When you are near to the fire, right, you are going to experience the heat. That is what? Radiation heat transfer. Then greenhouse, that means what? When the solar radiations, they are going to fall on to the earth, right? Then that earth is going to reflect some amount of heat. That heat is going to transfer to the hot gases, then it is going to cause the greenhouse effect. That is also one of the radiation heat transfer example. Then thermos you can take, space heater also you can take. Like that, there are a number of application of radiation heat transfer. Yes, for understanding, micro oven is one of the best example for what? Radiation heat transfer. Next, then sunlight. This is the sunlight. Sunlight is also one of the best example for what? Radiation heat transfer. The next, you are telling, right? Person near camp. Okay, person near fire or campfire we can take. So if your person is standing near here, right? So then what you can do when the fire is there, right? Fire is this point, but he is going to feel some amount of, he is going to experience some heat. That heat is flowing in the form of what? Electromagnetic wave, and there is no any fluid media. That type of heat transfer we can call it as a radiation heat transfer, dear students. This is also one of the examples we can consider for radiation heat transfer. Dear students, I hope you understood today's class. If you really understood and if you really like my videos, please do subscribe, like and comment. And your support is highly required for me. Thank you. We'll continue next class.